with Black Ops 6 being the newest release in the Call of Duty series, you kind of know exactly what's going to happen. Some fans are going to look at it and say, "Last year was better. This one's terrible," and some others would say, "Oh, we're so back. It's the best COD in years," or whatever. And yeah, to be honest, it's the same conversation the COD fan base has every single year with each release, and it'll be the exact same next year. Um, for me, with Black Ops 6, I'm kind of in the middle. I find myself to be more indifferent more than anything else. There's a lot of really good things about this game that we will probably talk about later on. At the same time, there's a lot of bad, strange, or even confusing choices made for the game as well, which to be honest doesn't really help it and really does drag it down for me. Um, but what I will say is that a lot of my problems with Black Ops 6 as a whole isn't isn't just specific to Black Ops 6. If you get what I mean. They can be applied to a lot of other CODs, especially the ones over the last 4 to 5 years since the Modern Warfare reboot. So it's going to be hard to talk about those problems without feeling like a broken record and feeling like I'm not saying anything new. A bit ironic, ain't it? Um, yeah, let's talk about the game itself. So yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is the performance or optimization of the game. It's a bit all over the place. Um, what you will notice in this video, and it will mainly be in the multiplayer and zombies, is these lag spikes or frame rate drops or whatever. It mainly happens when I'm trying to record footage for the game, or sometimes even when I'm streaming over on Twitch. Go check me out. Um, look, it does happen when I'm not trying to record or stream, but nowhere near as much as yeah, nowhere near as much, but still, it does happen. Um, know someone's going to be thinking, but it's your internet. Why? It's the internet. That's why it's like that. And look, I'll tell you right now, my internet's not that bad. Like, it's not obviously not the best, but like, it's still good enough to be able to play multiplayer games without a problem. So, I honestly I don't know why it's like this. I'm not exactly a dev, so I wouldn't know the first thing about the problems really, but it just doesn't seem to run properly half the time, which kind of sucks. um, but here is where I'm gonna sound like a broken records. Yeah, first, yeah, this is a first. Why the hell does this game take up so much goddamn space? Uh, to download the whole game, I mean the whole game, right? You're looking at around 160, 170 gig. Um, that's on console, by the way. Um, so it's probably different for PC, but still, the point still stands. There's no reason why it should be anywhere near this size. Like, sure, the cutscenes look really good, but not 160 gigabytes good. Um, we all know that there are other games out there that has just as much content, or like even more, that's significantly smaller. Like some aren't, like Baldur's Gate is probably not that much smaller, but that's a huge game. Like, like you know, like still, it's like that's a huge game, so it justifies it. So what's the reason for COD being so big? It could it could be it could be the fact that it just doesn't have they don't have enough time to condense the files. Maybe it's because they don't know how to condense the files, which I highly doubt. Um, or it could be the fan favorite theory that that they purposely make the game bigger to take up more space in your hard drive, which leads to less space to play other games. Which, let's be real, it wouldn't be the slightest bit surprising. We all know that Activision Blizzard is a scummy company that will do anything to try and rinse as much money from the player base as they possibly can. So it would make some sense that that they would possibly do this to force people to play their games more and to, hopefully get you to buy those shitty microtransactions that they love to riddle their £70 games with. Right, okay, I'm gonna try and be a bit more positive here. There's one really cool thing that they have done, and that's the HUD customization. Um, in the settings, there's a way that you can change up the HUD on the screen, and honestly, it's pretty cool. Like you can go from changing where parts of the HUD are to the size of everything to completely removing the HUD altogether. Which honestly, it's a really good feature. And honestly, it probably wouldn't it probably wouldn't have affected my opinion on um on the game as a whole. But you know what? It's much appreciated. It's really appreciated thing. It's like it's just a cool feature to add. And so yeah, that's pretty cool. Obviously there's going to be some spoilers, so if you don't want if you want to skip this part altogether, I'll put a timestamp on the screen so you know when it's done. I will also be paraphrasing a lot when it comes to the actual story to simply just save on time. uh so if we're going to compare this year's game to last year's Frankenstein's Monstrosity, we knew it was going to be better. Like, yeah, let's be real. It wasn't good last year. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing that you can say or do that is going to convince me that there was any redeeming qualities about that quote unquote game. Because of last year's COD, I was extremely close to not touching this one. And to be honest, I probably won't after this year's one. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point is that anything slightly better than a scam was going to look good in comparison. Now, look, the campaign wasn't too bad, to be fair. There's a lot of good about it, but at the same time, there are quite a few things that really do bug me, or that I don't quite like about it. The first thing is the safe house area. That you'll come back to after most missions. Um, Kind of like in Cold War, you can go around, talk to everyone in your squads, find some secret areas, and even upgrade things like increasing your health, getting more ammo, better gear, and so on. Like that's a pretty cool feature to add, since it kind of does justify the safe house. It kind of justifies it, as well as um not just being a story beat. So you know. We have a lot of new characters. All of them are great at best and pretty good at worst. The German guy Felix is a pretty interesting character, and he probably is my favorite of all the new guys, since he's so well acted and he's so well written as well. Um, I really do like him. There's a lot to like about him. You can probably find loads of clips about about his character. He's so cool. Um, we obviously have a couple returning characters with Adler and Woods. Woods obviously doesn't go out on missions with us, since he's in a wheelchair now because of what happens to him in Black Ops 2. Which does actually bring up a point I do want to talk about quickly. The Black Ops games tend to do this really weird thing of not being in chronological order. Black Ops 1 is set in the 60s. Black Ops 2 is set in the late 80s, 2000, 2025. BO3 and 4 is somewhere in the future. Cold War's late 80s. I think late 80s again. And Black Ops 6 is 91. So because of that, we already know what happens with certain characters and where they end up. Even though Hudson and Mason were in Cold War, we already knew that Hudson was killed by Menendez and Mason is presumed to be dead at best. And also, we know Woods is at least still alive in 2025. So, so yeah, we know what happens with all of them. It would mainly be the other characters that we wouldn't know what happens to. Happens to, since they don't actually appear in any other game apart from Cold War, with that Adler and stuff. But yeah, to tell a long story short, the game is about finding a mole in the CIA. So you have to follow some different leads to try and uncover some information about who it could be. I wasn't overly keen on the ending since it's it could be one of those. It could have been an hallucination type endings, and for the most part, don't I don't really like that type of plot point. I don't really think it works for the most part. Um, yeah, I just think it's I wouldn't say lazy. Lazy's the wrong words. Um, Generic is probably a better way of saying it, I think. Um, but I do want to talk about possibly my biggest gripe for Black Ops 6, that being the implementations of Warzone into the campaign. Um, this game does a similar thing to last year's CODs, with it having a lot more with it being more focused on an open level structure. Um, Granted, Treyarch do it a hell of a lot better than that. Um, they do it a hell of a lot better than Infinity Ward or Sledgehammer, whoever did last year's one. And yeah, and it's just it just works a bit more. It was done better, but I don't think it necessarily fully works for me personally, even if it is done better. Um, it didn't work well even the slightest in the Modern Warfare 2 DLC, and even though it was done better, I still don't think it works. I still just don't think it works. And yeah, another one of my biggest problems is the goddamn bullet sponge enemies. For the love of God, stop putting them in COD. There has never been a good bullet sponge enemy in any COD ever. Just stop doing it. It really drags the game down. It really stops it from being fun. Please just stop doing it. I know it sounds like I hated it the whole time. I like I know how this video is gonna come across after kind of writing most of what I thought. Like, I did like it and I did have fun playing it. It's just that I have a lot of frustrating points or opinions about the game that I can't get over. I have to say it. Like, I can't just not completely ignore a lot of it, and it really does suck. Going into the multiplayer, I already knew that it was going to be the mode that I would have the least to talk about. Um, a lot of what I would have said would have already been said in my other COD videos, and probably by 1.5 million other people. Um, but yeah, my to be honest, yeah, my whole opinion on COD's multiplayer, well, as a whole, this still does apply to Black Ops 6, is that it's a fun arcadey deathmatch type of game that you can play for like an hour, and that's not too different year to year. Um, that's kind of just like what I see it as. Yeah, I know they've added new things like the Omni movement and new maps and some new game modes, but it still does kind of play very similar to previous games. So it's not like a huge jump, like a huge leap between this one and the last year's one, as of like the way that the game feels, at least. Um, but yeah, let's talk about those three things specifically. Omni movement. From what I understand of it, it's mainly to do with sprinting direction, so you can like sort of like sprint in a like when you're going backwards, sideways, forwards. The way you go prone and the way you lean when aiming down sight. Um, it is good to see COD evolving and changing things up, um, even if it even if it's by a small amount, and even though this type of movement has been done before in other games, and this can not necessarily recently either, but still, um, maps I like them. None of them none of them really stand out to me though. Like even though they are all right, they don't really stand out to me personally. It's not like any of them are bad or whatever. It's just that I'm probably not gonna remember a lot of them like a year or two down the line, maybe even like a couple of months, like a few months down the line, because they're just not that memorable as good as they are. Um, and and to be honest, at the very least, they actually made new maps. Like Docker, if you give your developers enough time, they can actually make something. Like just something. Uh, Again, as always, the gunplay is as solid as it always has been with CODs. It's a lot of fun just to use them. But again, as I said earlier, there's not a whole lot I can really talk about without sounding like a broken record, since again, there's not a huge difference um each year. Like it's just not a huge difference. Like a lot pretty much everything I can say um I've already said 1.5 million times, and a lot of other people have already said 1.5 million times. So there's nothing new I can say that I haven't said before. Now, this is the game mode that I'll probably end up playing the most after I do this video, since to be honest, so far I've probably liked it the most. Um, After a couple of really, really bad zombies modes, they've gone back to the classic round-based zombie mode, which is probably honestly, it probably is the better idea, since the last two versions weren't even the slightest bit well received. Um, Actually, no, not talking about. Oh yeah, wait. I know Cold War was before the other two. Sorry, I just had I just had thought that when was Cold War? It does follow the Cold War formula, but with some slight tweaks and obviously new maps. Um, the two new maps that are currently in the game as of recording and should be out before any new maps is Liberty Falls and Terminus. I haven't put a whole lot of time into Terminus, so I won't really talk about that map too much. Um, but Liberty Falls is pretty fun. Admittedly, it's not my favorite, like it far from my favorite, but it's a lot better than some others. Visually, it's quite bland. Um, it does kind of look like a multiplayer map at first glance. And I think that's where Terminus I think does a little bit better. That does look more like a zombies map. Um, but the layout is pretty solid. Um, there's like a few areas where you can hold out and train zombies if and yeah, if you want to go and upgrade things, you'll have to go to different points in the map. Like if you want to upgrade your armor, there's like two separate places you can go. One to upgrade it the first time, and then to upgrade it again, you'll need to go to another place. Um, Again, yeah, not my favorite map, but it's still pretty decent. That's a lot of fun to play solo or with mates. Like I think that's what it does really well. It does both very well, where it's fun to play on this map on your own, but it's also good with mates. Where I think a lot of well, yeah, I think a lot of the older maps tend to do one or the other. There's some maps I personally think like Kino is a better solo map, where Origins is better with it's a good map to play with mates. That's where I think a lot of the older maps kind of do one or the other, and that's what I like about this map. It's good. It's good with both. They've also added a new zombie type. These spider-like creatures that have replaced the dogs. So now instead of having dog rounds, we have weird spider creature rounds. They're pretty cool. They look pretty sick. Kind of disturbing. I absolutely hate to see people right. Is it arachnophobia? Is that the right one? Is that the right one? Again, tell me if I'm wrong. I hate to see people that have that play this. Like it will be horrible for them. Um, but yeah. Now now I want to talk about a couple of little nitpicks I have with this mode. Um, in the later waves, in the later waves or rounds, I feel like they throw a bit too many special zombies in your way. Um, I'm talking like the Mangler and what's it called? Whatever that three-headed monster thing is called. I've genuinely forgotten what the name of it is. I'm not obviously like it's the others like special uh boss fight thing, whatever you call it. Um, like yeah, as cool as they are, it does kind of get annoying to have to deal with like multiple of them like per round. You get yourself like later on after like things like after like 30 or like level round 30, they start throwing like two or three of like manglers at you at a time, and then every like couple of rounds they throw one of those three-headed things your way as well, and it does kind of get a little bit annoying. Like they're not bad. It's just like there's just too many of them. Um, and yeah, here's my biggest problem, if you call it like you call it a nitpick, if I really have a problem with it. Um, there's a fucking pause timer. Treyarch, Activision, whoever. Why did you think it was a good idea to put a pause timer into this? I play mostly solo when it comes to zombies, so it's not like other people would be waiting on me. Like like this hasn't been a thing before. Like do you know why it hasn't been a thing before? Because it's a dumb idea. It's a dumb idea that doesn't need to be in the game. And honestly, this is a very good example of what COD has been recently. Dumb ideas or dumb things that doesn't make the game any better. It doesn't improve anything, and it's not even a necessary evil that you have to put up with. It's just dumb. It's just not good. But yeah, I think that's me done for the video. I do think I came across a lot more negative than I intended. Um, there's, there's just a lot of little things that really bugged me and did drag the game down a lot more for me. It is a good COD, um, even though I still do think there's like that a lot of it is either very similar to previous games or just not not very good ideas, to be honest. I I do think that a huge part of my problem is that we are getting way too many of them and not enough of a difference to really justify spending a whole £70 on. And especially considering the monetization of these games as well. I just think they need I just think they need to be a uh, long enough gap between each release. Um, but yeah, either way, I'll leave it there. So if you have made it this far, obviously like, subscribe, and all the same things you hear every other YouTuber say. And yeah, peace.